Jake Morrison stood at the big window of the Earth Defense Station and watched the last human ships leave the planet. The ships moved slowly at first, then faster as they reached the edge of space. Their engines glowed bright blue against the black sky. In a few minutes, they would jump to hyperspace and be gone forever. Jake had been a captain in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had seen many battles and made many hard choices, but nothing had prepared him for this day. Today, humanity was leaving home and never coming back. The Galactic Council had given them a choice 6 months ago. Submit to their control or face the consequences. The Council said humans were too dangerous to be left alone. They said human technology was growing too fast. They said human ships were too strong. They said humans asked too many questions and challenged too many rules. Admiral Lisa Clark had been in charge of the evacuation. She was a smart woman who had planned everything down to the smallest detail. Every human settlement, every space station, every colony ship had received secret orders. Pack everything important, destroy everything else. Leave no trace behind. The evacuation had started quietly. Small ships began moving people and supplies to secret locations. Families left their homes on Earth and went to hidden bases in distant star systems. Scientists packed their research and equipment. Soldiers gathered their weapons and moved to new positions. The Council thought they were watching everything. Their spy ships floated near Earth and recorded all human activity. But they did not know about the secret tunnels under major cities. They did not know about the hidden shipyards and asteroid belts. They did not know about the new type of faster-than-light drive that humans had invented. Lisa Clark had been working on this plan for 5 years. She knew the Council would try to control humanity someday. She had seen how they treated other species. The Zephyrians had been forced to give up their weapons. The Kelrani had been moved to smaller worlds. The Morthak had been split into different groups to make them weaker. Dr. Helen Wright was the last human scientist on Earth. She worked in the Council Embassy building, translating human research for alien scientists. The Council thought she was loyal to them. They did not know she was sending coded messages to the evacuation fleet. Helen had spent weeks copying important data and destroying the rest. She made sure the Council would get nothing useful when humans left. All the quantum communicators were disabled. All the navigation computers were wiped clean. All the research files were encrypted with codes that would take centuries to break. The Council representative, Ambassador Zethkar, arrived at Earth 3 days before the evacuation was complete. He was a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the Vorthons, had conquered many worlds. He expected humans to bow down and accept Council rule. Zethkar met with President Karen Lewis in the White House. He brought documents that would make Earth a Council protectorate. He explained how humans would be relocated to designated worlds. He described the new laws that would control human technology and population. Karen Lewis listened politely and asked for time to consider the offer. She said the human government needed to discuss the terms. She promised an answer in 1 week. Zethkar agreed to wait. He set up his headquarters in New York and began planning the transition. He brought Council administrators to Earth. He ordered alien troops to prepare for occupation. He was confident that humans would submit like all the others, but Karen Lewis was not planning to surrender. She was buying time for the last ships to escape. Every hour of delay meant more humans could reach safety. Every day of negotiation meant more equipment could be moved to hidden locations. The evacuation ships were not like normal human vessels. They had been built in secret over many years. They used new technology that the Council did not understand. They could travel faster than any alien ship. They could hide from most sensors. They could survive in deep space for decades without refueling. Jake Morrison had helped design these ships. He was an engineer before he became a soldier. He knew how to build things that worked well and lasted long. The evacuation fleet was his greatest achievement. Thousands of ships that could carry millions of people to safety. On the last day, Helen Wright walked into the Council embassy with a simple message. She placed it on Ambassador Zethkar's desk and left without saying A word. The message was written in perfect diplomatic language. It said humanity declined the Council's offer and chose to leave the galaxy instead. Zethkar read the message 3 times before he understood what it meant. He rushed to his communication center and tried to contact his superiors. But the quantum network was down. All human-built equipment had stopped working at the same time. Jake Morrison watched the last transport ship disappear into hyperspace. The ship carried his wife and children to a new home among distant stars. He would follow them soon on one of the final military vessels. But first he had to complete his mission. The Earth Defense Station began its self-destruct sequence. Jake had programmed it himself. In 10 minutes, there would be nothing left but debris. The Council would find no useful technology. They would learn no human secrets. They would get nothing from humanity's departure except empty worlds and broken dreams. Jake walked to the escape pod bay. His ship was waiting to take him to the rendezvous point. Admiral Clark expected him at the secret base in the Andromeda sector. From there, humanity would begin its new life away from the Council's reach. The escape pod launched. Just as the station exploded behind him, Jake did not look back. There was nothing left on Earth worth seeing. Humanity had spoken with actions instead of words. They had chosen freedom over safety. They had chosen the unknown over submission. The Council would spend years trying to understand what happened. They would search the empty cities and abandoned bases. They would find no clues about where humanity had gone. The greatest exodus in galactic history had happened in complete silence. 3 years had passed since humanity disappeared from the galaxy. Council Prime Minister Xylan sat in his office on the capital world of Nexus Prime, staring at reports that made no sense. Every week brought new problems. Every month brought worse news. The Council was falling apart and nobody knew how to fix it. Xylan was a member of the Kashari Collective, a species that prided itself on logical thinking and careful planning. His people had helped create the Galactic Council 200 years ago. They had written most of the laws and designed most of the systems. But they had never faced a problem like this. The humans had simply vanished, not destroyed in battle, not conquered by enemies, not forced to surrender. They had packed up everything and left for places unknown. No other species in galactic history had ever done such a thing. Intelligence Director Korth entered the office carrying another stack of reports. Korth belonged to the Nexus Federation, a group of species that specialized in gathering information. His 4 eyes could see different types of light. His brain could process data faster than most computers. But even he could not figure out where humanity had gone. Still nothing, Korth said as he placed the reports on Xylan's desk. We have searched every star system within 500 light-years of Earth. We have checked every known hyperspace route. We have scanned every asteroid field and nebula. There is no trace of human activity anywhere. Xylan picked up one of the reports and read the summary. The Vorthan Empire had sent 50 ships to search the Outer Rim territories. They had found nothing. The Titanus Republic had checked all the old trade routes, empty space. The Zephyrian Union had used their best sensors to scan for human technology signatures. No results. How is this possible? Xylan asked. Millions of humans do not just disappear. They had cities, factories, space stations. They had families and friends and pets. People do not abandon everything without leaving some trace behind. Korth activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked all the places where humans used to live. Earth, Mars, the Jupiter colonies, dozens of other worlds, all empty now, all silent. The evacuation was planned for years, Korth explained, maybe decades. They built ships in secret. They developed new technology in hidden laboratories. They prepared supply caches in unknown locations. When the time came, they were ready. The hologram changed to show human ship designs. The Council had captured a few damaged vessels during border conflicts over the years. Human technology was different from alien designs. It was more flexible, more adaptable. Human ships could be modified quickly for new missions. Their faster-than-light drives were more advanced than we realized, Korth continued. Our intelligence report suggested they were only slightly better than standard Council technology. But the evacuation ships disappeared faster than our best pursuit vessels could follow. They must have made breakthrough advances in secret. Xylan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the great towers of the Council complex. Ships from 12 different species moved through the sky. This was supposed to be the center of galactic civilization. But lately it felt more like a museum. The economic problems had started immediately after humanity's departure. Human companies had been involved in almost every aspect of galactic trade. They had built the quantum communication networks. They had designed the automated factory systems. They had created the artificial intelligence programs that managed shipping routes. When humans left, they took their expertise with them. Worse, they had sabotaged the systems they left behind. Nothing worked properly anymore. Trade ships got lost because navigation computers failed. Factories shut down because maintenance protocols were corrupted. Communication networks crashed because security programs had hidden flaws. The Titanus Republic is threatening to leave the Council, Korth reported. Their economy has shrunk by 30% in 3 years. They blame us for driving away the humans. They say we destroyed the golden age of galactic prosperity. Xylan was not surprised. Councilor Vrex of the Titanus Republic had been asking hard questions at every council meeting. Why had they considered humanity a threat? What evidence had supported their fears? Who had made the decision to demand human submission? The truth was embarrassing. The Council had been afraid of human progress. In just 2 centuries, humans had gone from primitive planet-bound creatures to major players in galactic politics. Their technology improved faster than any other species. Their population grew larger every year. Their influence spread to more and more worlds. Some council members had worried that humans would eventually dominate the galaxy. They pointed to human history full of wars and conquests. They noted how humans questioned authority and challenged established rules. They predicted that humanity would never accept permanent junior status in the galactic community. So the Council had decided to act first. Contain the threat before it became too large. Force humanity to accept limits on their growth and development. Treat them like children who needed adult supervision, but the plan had backfired completely. Instead of submitting, humans had chosen exile. Instead of staying to fight, they had disappeared into the unknown. The Council had gained nothing and lost everything. Ambassador Zethkar had been demoted after the human evacuation. He now worked as a junior diplomat on a remote frontier world. His reports about human capabilities had been completely wrong. He had assured the Council that humanity would never abandon their homeworld. He had promised that economic pressure would force them to negotiate. The Vorthan Empire was also facing internal problems. Their military had been built to fight conventional wars against predictable enemies. They did not know how to deal with opponents who simply left the battlefield. Many Vorthan generals had criticized the decision to threaten humanity without understanding their true capabilities. What about the Kashari scientists? Xylan asked. Have they learned anything from the abandoned human facilities? Korth shook his head. The humans were very thorough. They destroyed or removed everything useful. The laboratories are empty. The computer databases are wiped clean. Even the garbage disposal systems were emptied before they left. The Kishari Collective had sent their best researchers to study human technology. They had hoped to reverse engineer human innovations and continue development without human help. But there was nothing left to study. The humans had taken their secrets with them. There is something else, Korth said quietly. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures in the galactic outer rim. The patterns match theoretical predictions for advanced human technology, but the signals are very faint and appear only briefly. Xylan felt a moment of hope. Can we track the source? No, the signals come from different locations each time. They might be probe ships or automated beacons, Or they might be something else entirely. Human technology was always difficult for us to understand. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the council chambers. There had been another fight between Vorthan and Kashari delegates. This time it was about mining rights in the Spiral Arm territories. Without human mediation, old disputes were becoming new conflicts. Xylan closed his eyes and tried to remember. Better times? 5 years ago, the galaxy had been peaceful and prosperous. Trade flowed freely between worlds. Scientific research advanced steadily. Different species worked together on massive projects that benefited everyone. Humanity had been at the center of it all. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they were the most flexible. They could work with anyone. They could solve problems that other species found impossible. They could bring enemies together and turn conflicts into cooperation. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was learning what it had lost. 5 years after humanity vanished, Commander Rex Turner stood on the bridge of his reconnaissance ship deep in the Andromeda sector. The ship was called Silent Runner, and it lived up to its name. Its hull was designed to absorb sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Its engines ran so quietly that even sensitive equipment could barely detect them. Rex was watching something that made his blood run cold. Through the view screen, he could see shapes moving in the darkness between stars. They were not natural objects. They were ships, but not like any ships built by known species. These vessels were perfectly black and moved in formations that seemed impossible. "How many do you count?" asked Lieutenant Amy Parker, his tactical officer. She was young but very good at her job. Rex had trained her himself during the long years of exile. "At least 50 in this group," Rex replied. "But the long-range sensors are picking up more formations in adjacent sectors. This might be just the advance guard." Rex activated the encrypted communication system and began recording his report. Admiral Lisa Clark needed to know about this immediately. The message would take 6 hours to reach the hidden human fleet, but every minute of warning could be important. "Admiral Clark, this is Silent Runner reporting from Sector 77 Alpha. We have confirmed contact with unknown hostile forces. The energy signatures match archive records from the ancient databases. I believe we are looking at Void Swarm reconnaissance units." The Void Swarm was something most people thought was just a legend. Ancient records mentioned them in stories about the early days of galactic civilization. They were described as mechanical beings that consumed everything in their path. Stars, planets, entire solar systems vanished when the swarm passed through, but Rex knew the stories were real. Humanity had studied the old archives more carefully than other species. Human scientists had found evidence that the Void Swarm had destroyed dozens of civilizations before disappearing into the dark space between galaxies. They had been gone for over 1,000 years. Now they were coming back. The alien ships moved with perfect coordination. There was no communication between them that Rex could detect. They seemed to share a single mind that controlled all their actions. They swept through space in search patterns, scanning everything they encountered. Rex had been watching them for 3 days. The swarm ships were looking for something. They checked every asteroid, every gas cloud, every piece of space debris. They were mapping the galaxy and cataloging its resources. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was tearing itself apart. Rex received regular intelligence reports from human agents who had remained behind in Council space. The news was getting worse. Every month, the Vorthan Empire and Kishari Collective were on the edge of war. Disputes over trade routes had escalated into armed confrontations. Both sides were building new warships and forming military alliances with smaller species. The Titanus Republic had withdrawn from most council activities. They were angry about the economic collapse that followed humanity's departure. Their representative, Councillor Rex, had accused the council leadership of incompetence and corruption. 3 other species had already left the council completely. The Zephyrian Union, the Morthic Confederation, and the Rigel Consortium had declared independence and formed their own alliance. They refused to follow council laws or pay council taxes. General Sam Rodriguez Humanity's chief military strategist had predicted this would happen. He had studied galactic politics for decades and understood how fragile the Council really was. Without humanity to mediate disputes and provide technological leadership, the old rivalries were surfacing again. Rex finished his report and sent it through the quantum relay network that connected human settlements. The message would be copied and forwarded to every human outpost in the galaxy. Admiral Clark would probably call an emergency meeting of the Human Strategic Council, the Silent. Runa moved carefully away from the void swarm formation. Rex did not want to be detected. Human ships were good at hiding, but the swarm had very advanced sensors. If they realized they were being watched, they might change their plans. As Rex's ship slipped away into hyperspace, the first void swarm attack began. The target was a remote mining station on the edge of Council territory. The station had a crew of 200 aliens from 4 different species. They were extracting rare metals from a dead planet that had no strategic value. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. The void swarm ships appeared from hyperspace without warning. They ignored all communication attempts. They destroyed the mining equipment first, then the defensive platforms, then the habitat modules. Finally, they consumed the entire station, leaving nothing behind except empty space. The station's final distress signal reached the nearest Council outpost 6 hours later. By then, 3 more mining facilities had been destroyed. The pattern was always the same: swift attack, total destruction, complete consumption of all materials. Council forces tried to respond, but they were too slow and too scattered. The void swarm moved faster than any known technology. They struck targets hundreds of light years apart within hours of each other. No fleet could be in so many places at once. Prime Minister Xylan called an emergency session of the Council. Representatives from all member species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime. They argued for hours about how to respond to the threat. Some wanted to send the entire Council fleet to hunt down the attackers. Others insisted on negotiating with the unknown enemy. A few suggested evacuating border worlds until they understood what they were facing: intelligence. Director Korth presented his analysis of the attacks. The enemy used technology that was far superior to anything in Council databases. Their ships appeared to be completely automated. They showed no interest in capturing prisoners or negotiating surrender. "These are not raiders or pirates," Korth explained to the assembled delegates. "They are not trying to steal resources or capture territory. They are systematically destroying everything they encounter. This appears to be the beginning of an extermination campaign." Councillor Vrex of the Titanus Republic stood up to address the chamber. He was an old politician who had survived many crises. But Rex could see the fear in his eyes through the transmitted footage. "Where are the humans when we need them?" Vrex demanded. "They knew things about galactic history that we had forgotten. They studied threats that we ignored. If they were here, they might know how to fight this enemy." The chamber fell silent. For 5 years, nobody had wanted to admit that driving away humanity had been a mistake. Now the truth was obvious to everyone. The Council needed human knowledge, human technology, and human leadership, but the humans were gone, hidden somewhere in the vast darkness of space. The Council had no way to contact them. Even if they could find humanity's new home, would the humans be willing to help the people who had exiled them? Ambassador Zeph Carr, who had been restored to his position after the crisis began, made a suggestion that shocked everyone. "We should broadcast a message to every star system in the galaxy. We should admit our mistake and ask humanity to come back. We should offer them anything they want in exchange for their help." The suggestion started another round of arguments. Some delegates thought it was a good idea. Others said it would show weakness to their enemies. A few insisted that the Council could handle the crisis without human assistance. While the Council debated, the Void Swarm continued their advance. More outposts were destroyed. More ships disappeared. The border worlds began evacuating their populations without waiting for official orders. Rex Turner and his reconnaissance fleet watched it all happen from their hidden positions. They recorded every attack and transmitted the data back to Admiral Clark. They could see the pattern that the Council was missing. The Void Swarm was not just destroying targets randomly. They were eliminating anything that could pose a threat to their main force. They were clearing a path through the galaxy for something much larger and more dangerous. The real invasion had not even begun yet. The Void Swarm had been advancing through Council space for 3 months when Prime Minister Zaylan finally admitted the truth. The Council could not stop them. Every battle ended in defeat. Every defense was broken. Every retreat became a rout. Zaylan stood before the emergency assembly of the Galactic Council and spoke words he never thought he would say. We need humanity's help. Without them, we are all going to die. The Great Chamber was only half full. Many delegates had already fled to their homeworlds. Others were trapped behind Void Swarm lines and could not attend the meeting. The proud alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 2 centuries was falling. Apart in real time, Councillor Vrex of the Titanus Republic was one of the few senior leaders still present. His own fleet had been destroyed trying to defend the mining worlds in Sector 12. He had barely escaped in a damaged cruiser with a handful of survivors. I have seen these machines up close, Vrex told the assembly. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They do not show mercy. They consume everything in their path and leave nothing behind. Our weapons cannot hurt them. Our shields cannot stop them. We are fighting an enemy that is beyond our ability to defeat. Intelligence Director Korth activated the main display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with red areas marking void. Swarm-controlled territory. Red zones were growing larger every day. The enemy has captured or destroyed 47 star systems, Korth reported. They have eliminated 6 major fleet bases and 12 manufacturing centers. At their current rate of advance, they will reach the core worlds within 18 months. The mathematics were terrifying. The Void Swarm moved faster than Council forces could retreat. They reproduced faster than Council shipyards could build replacement vessels. They learned from every battle and adapted their tactics immediately. But there was worse news coming. Long-range sensors had detected massive energy signatures in the dark space beyond the galactic rim. Something huge was moving toward Council territory. The advance force that had been devastating Council defenses was just the beginning. We estimate the main swarm fleet contains over 10,000 ships, Korth continued. Some of the vessels are larger than our biggest space stations. If they reach inhabited space, they could consume entire worlds in a matter of hours. Ambassador Kate Sullivan had been listening to the debates from a hidden alcove in the Council chamber. She was officially dead, killed in a transport accident 5 years ago when humanity evacuated. In reality, she had remained behind to monitor Council activities and report back to Admiral Clark. Kate was a diplomat by training and a spy by necessity. She had spent years learning to disguise herself as different alien species. Her current identity was that of a low-ranking Kishari trade representative. The Council security forces had no idea that a human was sitting in their most secure facility, but now Kate faced a terrible decision. She could maintain her cover and continue gathering intelligence, or she could reveal herself and try to help. The Council contact humanity. Both choices had risks. If she stayed hidden, the Council might fall before they found a way to reach humanity. The Void Swarm would consume everything, including the hidden human colonies. But if she revealed herself, the Council might try to capture her and force her to give up human secrets. Kate made her choice. She stood up in the viewing gallery and spoke in perfect English. The humans are not gone. We are still here, and we have been watching everything. The effect was electric. Every delegate in the chamber turned to stare at her. Security guards reached for their weapons. Translators scrambled to process the unexpected communication. Zaylan was the first to recover from the shock. Ambassador Sullivan? But you died years ago in the transport crash. That was arranged to give me a new identity, Kate replied calmly. My government wanted an observer to remain behind and monitor Council activities. I have been here the entire time, reporting on your situation to Admiral Clark. The security guards moved to arrest her, but Zaylan waved them off. This was not the time for old grievances. If you can contact your people, please do so immediately. We need their help. Kate activated a concealed communication device. It was built with human technology that the Council had never been able to duplicate. The quantum signal would reach Admiral Clark in the Andromeda sector within hours. Admiral Clark, this is Ambassador Sullivan reporting from Nexus Prime. The Void Swarm has returned and is advancing through Council space. The Council is requesting immediate assistance. Please respond with instructions. While they waited for Admiral Clark's reply, Kate briefed the Council on what humanity had learned about the Void Swarm during their years of exile. Human scientists had studied the ancient records more thoroughly than anyone else. They had found clues that other species had missed. The Void Swarm is not a natural species, Kate explained. They are artificial constructs created by an ancient civilization that was destroyed over 1,000 years ago. They were designed to be the ultimate weapon, capable of consuming entire galaxies. The revelation shocked the Council delegates. They had assumed they were fighting some kind of advanced alien race. Learning that their enemy was a weapon created by their predecessors was even more terrifying. The swarm has a weakness, Kate continued. They are controlled by a central intelligence located somewhere in their main fleet. If that control center can be destroyed, the entire swarm will shut down. But reaching it will require ships and weapons that can penetrate their strongest defenses. Korth leaned forward in his seat. Do the humans have such weapons? Kate smiled grimly. Humanity has been preparing for this day since we left Council space. We knew the swarm would return eventually. Admiral Clark has been building a fleet specifically designed to fight mechanical opponents. The communication device activated and Admiral Clark's voice filled the chamber. Her message was brief and to the point. Ambassador Sullivan, I have received your report. The Human Strategic Council will debate the situation and provide a response within 72 hours. Do not take any action until you hear from us again. The connection ended, leaving the Council delegates to wonder what humanity would decide. Would they help the people who had exiled them? Would they demand concessions in exchange for their assistance? Would they even be willing to risk their own survival for former enemies? Zaylan called for a recess while they waited for humanity's answer. The Council members scattered to contact their homeworlds and prepare for whatever came next. Some began evacuating their populations to the furthest corners of the galaxy. Others started negotiating separate peace deals with neighboring species. Kate Sullivan remained in the Council chamber, guarded by security forces but treated with respect. She was now the most important person in Council space. The fate of billions of beings depended on the message she would receive from Admiral Clark. The search for humanity had taken 5 years and cost countless resources. But it had been worth it. Contact had been re-established at the moment when it was needed most. The question now was whether humanity would be willing to save the galaxy that had rejected them. In the hidden fleet bases of the Andromeda sector, Admiral Clark and her commanders debated the most important decision in human history. They had the power to save the Council or let it fall. They could rescue their former oppressors or watch them be destroyed by the monsters they had ignored. The clock was ticking, and the Void Swarm was still advancing. Every hour of delay meant more worlds consumed and more lives lost. Humanity had to choose between revenge and redemption, between safety and sacrifice. The answer would determine not just the fate of the Galactic Council, but the future of all intelligent life in the galaxy. Admiral Lisa Clark stood in the command center of the New Horizon, humanity's flagship hidden in a nebula beyond the galactic rim. Around her, the Human Leadership Council argued about the most important decision they would ever make. The Council's desperate plea for help had reached them 70 hours ago, and the debate had not stopped since. President Karen Lewis slammed her hand on the conference table. They drove us from our homes, they treated us like criminals. They forced us to abandon everything we had built. Now they want our help when their own mistakes have caught up with them. General Sam Rodriguez nodded in agreement. My soldiers died fighting Council forces in border skirmishes. Families were separated during the evacuation. Children grew up in exile because of their prejudice. Why should we risk our lives to save people who never wanted us around? Dr. Helen Wright looked up from her data tablet. She had been analyzing reports from the Void Swarm attacks for days. Because if we let the galaxy fall, the swarm will eventually find us too. They consume everything in their path. Distance will not protect us forever. The argument had been going in circles for 3 days. Half the leadership wanted revenge against the Council. The other half understood that the Void Swarm threatened everyone, including humanity. Admiral Clark had listened to every opinion, but the final decision was hers to make. Captain Jake Morrison entered the room carrying the latest intelligence. Reports. His reconnaissance teams had been monitoring the Void Swarm advance from hidden positions throughout the galaxy. The news was worse than anyone had expected. The main swarm fleet has entered Council space, Jake announced. Long-range sensors count over 15,000 ships. Some of them are the size of small moons. They are heading directly for the core worlds. The holographic display activated, showing the current tactical situation. Red markers indicated void swarm positions. Blue markers showed the remaining Council forces. The difference in numbers was overwhelming. The Council fleet was outnumbered 50-1. How long before they reach Nexus Prime? Admiral Clark asked. 6 days at their current speed, Jake replied. The Council has assembled their remaining forces for a final battle, but they do not have enough ships to make a difference. It will be a massacre. Dr. Wright stood up and walked to the display. She highlighted several key points on the tactical map. The swarm formation matches the patterns we found in the ancient archives. They are moving toward the galactic core where the highest concentration of inhabited worlds exists. They plan to consume everything at once. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. This was not just about the Council anymore. The Void Swarm intended to devour the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every living thing would be consumed by the mechanical monsters. Admiral Clark made her decision. We go back. Not to save the Council, but to save everyone else. The swarm cannot be allowed to succeed. President Lewis shook her head. You are asking our people to die for strangers who hate us. How can you justify that sacrifice? Because it is the right thing to do, Clark replied simply. We left the galaxy to preserve our freedom and our way of life. But our way of life includes protecting those who cannot protect themselves. We may not owe the Council anything, but we owe it to ourselves to remain human. General Rodriguez sighed and activated his command console. If we are going to do this, we need to move fast. The swarm will not wait for us to get organized. How many ships can we deploy? Clark turned to her tactical staff. The human fleet had grown significantly during the years of exile. Hidden shipyards had been building vessels designed specifically to fight mechanical opponents. The technology was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. We have 400 ships ready for immediate deployment, reported Commander Rex Turner. Another 200 can be ready within 72 hours. All vessels are equipped with quantum disruption weapons and adaptive shielding systems. The quantum disruption weapons were humanity's secret advantage. They had been developed after studying captured Void Swarm technology from ancient battlefields. The weapons could interfere with the quantum fields that held mechanical constructs together. Dr. Wright had led the research team that created the weapons. The swarm ships are held together by quantum binding forces. Our disruption fields can cause cascade failures in their hull structures, but we need to get close enough to use them effectively. Admiral Clark began issuing orders. The human fleet would be divided into 3 task forces. The first would engage the swarm advance units. The second would protect Council evacuation routes. The third would attempt to reach the Swarm Command Center and destroy the Central Intelligence. Captain Morrison would lead the most dangerous mission. His task force would have to penetrate deep into Swarm territory and locate the command ship. It would be a one-way mission for most of his crews. What about the Council? Asked President Lewis. Do we tell them we are coming? Admiral Clark activated the long-range communicator. Ambassador Kate Sullivan was still on Nexus Prime. waiting for humanity's answer. The message would reach her in 6 hours. Ambassador Sullivan, this is Admiral Clark. Humanity will assist in the defense against the Void Swarm. Our fleet will arrive at Nexus Prime in 96 hours. Coordinate with Council forces, but do not reveal our tactical capabilities until we engage the enemy. The human fleet began moving immediately. Ships emerged from hidden bases throughout the Andromeda sector. The largest naval force in human history assembled for the journey back to the galaxy they had left behind. The first task force reached Council space just as the Void Swarm began their final assault on the core worlds. Human ships appeared without warning and opened fire with weapons the Swarm had never encountered before. The effect was devastating. Quantum disruption beams tore through swarm hulls like paper. Adaptive shields absorbed and redirected energy weapons back at their sources. Human fighters moved with speed and agility that mechanical opponents could not match. For the first time since the invasion began, Void Swarm ships were destroyed faster than they could adapt. The mechanical intelligence controlling them struggled to understand weapons based on principles it had never encountered. Captain Morrison led his task force toward the heart of the Swarm fleet. His mission was to find and destroy the Central Command ship. Intelligence suggested it would be the largest vessel in the formation. Protected by thousands of escort ships, the battle raged for 18 hours. Human and Council forces worked together for the first time in 5 years. Old grudges were forgotten in the face of mutual extinction. Species that had been enemies became allies united against the mechanical threat, but the cost was terrible. Human ships died protecting Council evacuation transports. Council vessels sacrificed themselves to cover human attack runs. Both sides paid in blood for their chance at survival. Morrison finally located the Swarm command ship. It was a massive construct that dwarfed everything around it. Its hull was covered with weapon systems and defensive barriers. Getting close enough to plant quantum charges would require a direct assault through heavy fire. This is Captain Morrison to all human ships. I am beginning the final approach to target Alpha. If we succeed, the entire swarm will shut down. If we fail, someone else will have to try. It has been an honor serving with you all. Morrison's ship, the Earth's Pride, accelerated toward the command vessel. Behind him, the surviving ships of his task force provided covering fire. Council vessels joined the attack, adding their weapons to the desperate assault. The quantum charges detonated inside the Swarm command ship's core. The explosion tore through quantum binding fields and disrupted the central intelligence. Across the galaxy, 15,000 Swarm ships stopped moving at the same moment. The invasion was over. The Void Swarm was defeated. But the galaxy they had saved was changed forever. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors, Ambassador Sullivan delivered humanity's terms to the Council. There would be no return to the old system. Humanity would not rejoin the Council as junior members. Instead, a new galactic government would be formed with humans as equal partners. The inscription above the rebuilt Council chambers read in human English, "Never again shall fear overcome wisdom." It was a reminder of the price of prejudice and the value of unity. Admiral Clark stood in those same chambers 6 months later, addressing representatives from dozens of species. The galaxy had been rebuilt, but it was humanity that led the reconstruction. They had earned their place not through conquest, but through sacrifice. The Council's apology had come too late to prevent the war, but it was not too late to build a better future. In the ruins of the old galaxy, a new civilization was born. One where strength was measured not by the fear you inspired, but by the lives you were willing to save.